All right, today we're going to pull back the curtain on the hidden world of industrial safety. And believe it or not, it all starts right here with a single piece of paper. So let's dive in.
I know, that sounds a little dramatic, doesn't it? But look, in these high-stakes industries, it's a very real question. And the answer? Well, it often comes down to a device you've probably never even heard of, a kind of silent guardian that prevents the exact disasters we all hope to only read about.
So to really get what our silent guardian does, we first have to understand what it's up against. And the potential problem? Ammonia. It's this invisible workhorse that keeps our entire food supply chain cold and fresh. But here's the thing, this incredibly effective coolant also carries a pretty serious risk. Yeah, here's the catch. When ammonia leaks, it can be really dangerous. That's why these industrial systems have so many layers of safety built in. But what happens if those fail? Well, that's when we meet the last line of defense. So what do you do when all your other safety nets might fail? You need a final fail-safe. You basically need a hero to step in. And here it is. It's called the High-Level Cutout, or HLCO for short. The simplest way to think about it is like the ultimate emergency brake. It's constantly watching the ammonia level inside a massive tank. If that level gets too high, bam! It slams the brakes on the whole system, stopping a disaster before it can even start.
And you know what's so great? The concept is actually really simple. Have you ever walked away from a running bathtub and had that mini heart attack when you remembered? Well, the HLCO is basically a super smart industrial-grade version of that, except instead of some water on the bathroom floor, it's preventing a giant tank of hazardous ammonia from overflowing. So yeah, the stakes are just a little bit higher.
And this is definitely not a one-size-fits-all kind of deal. As you can see, there are all sorts of different sensors. Everything from a basic float switch, kind of like the one in your toilet tank, to really high-tech ultrasonic sensors. And each one is tailor-made to protect a specific kind of vessel in the system. Each one is its own little silent guardian, built for a very specific job.
Okay, but how can you be sure this guardian is always awake and on duty? Well, you test it. You test it rigorously.
Now, this checkup isn't just a quick look-see. It's a formal, super detailed procedure they do every single year. And this form we've been looking at, that's the playbook. It's the step-by-step guide technicians follow to the absolute letter to make sure this silent guardian is always ready to jump into action. The whole process really boils down to 4 key stages. First, you've got to identify the exact piece of equipment you're testing. Then you prepare for the test using a super strict checklist. After that, you run the test and confirm that everything worked exactly as it should. And finally, and this is crucial, you document absolutely everything. Let's just zoom in on that preparation step for a second, because this is where the real detective work comes in. Technicians don't just walk in and start flipping switches. No way. They have to dig deep into the system's whole life story. They're looking at the original manufacturer's manuals. They're checking past calibration records. It's all about knowing your patient inside and out before you even think about starting the procedure. And then you get to the moment of truth, the test. They actually simulate a worst-case scenario. You can just imagine them holding their breath. Did the sensor trip when it was supposed to? Did all the alarms go off? And here's the big one. Did those massive compressors grind to a complete stop? A yes to all 3 of those means everyone can finally breathe easy.
But what happens if the answer to one of those questions is no? What if the guardian fails its own health check?
This is exactly where the form becomes a total lifeline. That section for corrective actions, it's completely non-negotiable. Every single problem, no matter how small it seems, gets written down. Every single fix is detailed. There's absolutely no, oh, we'll get to that later. It has to be fixed and it has to be recorded right then and there.
And this is where the rubber meets the road. Accountability. At the very end of all this, people have to sign their names, the technician who did the work and the supervisor who oversaw it. And trust me, that's not just a formality. It's a personal and a professional guarantee. It's them saying, we've checked it, this system is safe, we stand by our work. That's a huge deal. So it's pretty clear by now that this form is way, way more than just a piece of paper. Its importance goes far beyond the walls of just one building. Yeah, doing this checkup isn't just about, being responsible. It's the law. We've learned from decades of industrial accidents that when you're dealing with hazardous stuff, you just can't leave anything to chance. And that's exactly why these kinds of procedures are mandatory.
See, this one test is actually a critical piece of two huge federal safety programs. One is called Process Safety Management, or PSM, and the other is the Risk Management Program, or RMP. These are basically the big guns of industrial safety, designed to prevent accidents and protect the entire community if something does go wrong.
So when you step back and look at it, what started out as just a simple form is actually a vital piece in this massive, nationwide puzzle of process safety. It directly connects the hard work of one technician in one facility to this huge effort to keep workers and entire communities safe.
So we've just seen how one single form, one methodical checkup, is the key to stopping a potential disaster in its tracks. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? How many other silent guardians like this are out there? How many of these critical checkups are happening all around us, every single day, just keeping our world running safely? I bet it's way more than any of us could ever imagine.